Welcome back to my channel, Inflightmuzik. My name is Ian, and today I want to show you 3 different EQ tips and tricks that every producer should know. And if you're looking for more FL Studio and music production tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time I make a new video. Alright, so I pulled up a beat that I did back when I did my 30-day beat challenge, and during that challenge I definitely found myself really rushing through these beats and not really doing too much to the mix. Here, when I play this beat in the intro, you'll definitely notice a glaring problem with the mix. So yeah, you should have definitely been able to hear those resonant frequencies that were occurring in this lead track right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to solo this, and we're going to go into the mixer track and look at what we've done here. And you can see that I've taken out a lot of the lows, a lot of the highs, and ducked a few of these frequencies, but obviously that definitely was not enough to get rid of those really annoying resonances. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this EQ right here where it's at, and we're going to pull up a free dynamic EQ made by TDR. I'll leave the link in the description down low. This is the only free dynamic EQ plugin that I am aware of. If you know of any others, feel free to comment in the comment section. So what we're going to do, we're going to take one of these bands and we're going to band solo, and we're just going to listen to where we hear the most of the resonance coming from. You'll notice that this frequency is definitely sweeping left to right throughout the track. So there's not just one spot where we're going to find these resonances. And that's the great thing about having this dynamic EQ, because it'll only take out the sound whenever the frequency gets too resonant. And that's really the sauce with this type of plugin. So now that we have this soloed, we're going to actually increase the gain here, narrow the cut a little bit, and we're just going to listen to where we get the most resonance. So again, you could tell that this resonant frequency is shifting left to right. So we're going to use this bell curve and have a wider Q so that it can pick up on that sweeping whenever it occurs here in the middle of this frequency range. So now we can unsolo this band, reset the gain to leave it flat, turn on this threshold, and we can actually see what it's going to take out with this curve right here. We're going to just decrease it somewhere between 3 and 6 dB for now, and we're just going to use our ears and listen to whether or not we need to narrow this Q or widen it. And another cool feature about this plugin, you could actually just listen to what it's taking out. So we're going to turn on this gain reduction delta, and now we're just listening to what this plugin is eliminating from the mix. So it sounds like we need to duck this down in the frequency range just a little bit further to the left, and we're going to listen down here. Yeah, definitely around here. Now let's turn the gain reduction delta off, and let's listen to what the overall track sounds like now. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to create another frequency band and eliminate some more frequencies. Okay, so yeah, we definitely took care of the middle frequencies here, but we're still getting a lot of high-end frequencies that get really resonant as well. This particular EQ doesn't just do bell curves, it also does high pass, low pass, high cut, low cut. So we're going to go to this 4th band, and it's already selected on this EQ curve right here, and this is going to take out the high frequencies whenever it gets too much resonance. So we're just going to shift this down here, right about where this original band stops working. And once again, we're going to turn the threshold on and duck this down. And let's just leave it at about -3. And let's just take a listen and adjust from there. Okay, it's definitely much smoother, but we're still getting another resonant frequency. So it's another one that's right here that pokes out. And now let's see what we got. That's much, much, much smoother than before. So let's go ahead and A/B this, and let's listen to it in the mix, because with it soloed, those frequencies are going to stand out a lot more, but when it's playing with the rest of the beat, it's going to be less noticeable. So this is with it off. And this is with it on. Just overall a lot cleaner, a lot smoother, and because we clean that up so much, we could actually turn up the overall volume of our track as well. So we're just going to increase the output gain by 1.5 dB, but let's use our ears and listen to what we got. Yes, that's much, much smoother, and we were able to level match the volume back to where it was at, as if we didn't really change anything at all except take out those sweeping resonances. That would be impossible to do with a normal EQ. So now I'm gonna take a listen to these keys that we have here. It's really a synth. I don't know why I labeled it keys, but like I said, when I made these 30 beats, I was really flying through them. So let's go ahead and listen to what we can change here, and I'll take us into our next tip. So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of low end frequency right in the middle. And let's take a look at the EQ that I have on here already. So I took out a resonant frequency. When you're using a static EQ, you're gonna want more narrow cuts. That way you're not taking so much of the frequency out. With those dynamic EQs, it's okay to have a wider Q because those frequencies will come back in and fill in the space. So you're not always leaving those frequencies empty. And you can see there's a lot of low end and a lot of high end that's taken out, but we're still getting a lot of low end right in the middle. Right around this range, you're gonna have your snare hits. So let's go ahead and clean this up by creating a Midside EQ right here in FL Studio. So we're gonna use Patcher, and I'm gonna pull up this Midside template that I created. And basically right here, I used another free plugin, which I will link down below, called MSED. And this is made by Voxengo, and it's literally just a mid-side volume plugin. So in this first one, I have the sides turned all the way down and the mid gain set at 0. And then on this bottom one, I have the mid gain turned all the way down and the sides set at 0 instead. And everything else is just set to default. And then I just attached 2 parametric EQ2s to each. So now we have an EQ that's only controlling the mids and an EQ that's only controlling the sides. So let's go into this first EQ and let's tame the mid section of this sound. So now we have less information in this middle section, right around where the snares are going to be hitting. And now we can go into this side and we can actually add presence to that same area where we took out the middle frequencies to fill that sound back in, because you notice that the sound definitely got thinner. So this is how we compensate for that. So now not only did we clean up that middle section, we also gave more stereo presence to this sound. So let's turn Patcher off and take a listen, and then I'll turn it back on. Patcher off. Patcher on. So it's just a really subtle difference, but overall it's a lot cleaner, and we're going to be able to hear the drums pierce through a lot better when this synth is playing. So let's listen to it in the mix. So you could hear how wide that synth sounds. You could hear all the drums in the middle. I'm listening to that snare right now, and I'm just now realizing that that snare is absolutely horrible. But the main focus is the EQ trick. It's also a good idea to use these EQ tricks while you're listening to that particular track in the mix. It's just a lot more obvious for you guys to hear it when I have it soloed. So that's why I soloed that for you guys. For this last EQ trick, we're going to take a look at my bass track here, and you'll see that I'm using parametric EQ2, and I'm cutting out frequencies all the way up to about 30 hertz. And that's something a lot of producers will do. They'll cut out any unnecessary frequencies beyond a certain range. It's not always 30 hertz for me. Sometimes it's just 20, sometimes it's even higher than 30 hertz, but usually it's around 30 hertz. Instead of using parametric EQ2, we're actually going to turn this off, and we are going to insert Fruity Convolver. Here inside of Fruity Convolver, we're actually going to use a linear phase EQ. So go into your presets, equalizers, and you'll have these 4 different presets. Since we're using this directly in our mix, we're going to go for short latency here. The advantage of using this EQ over a parametric EQ when you're cutting out the low end on a bass track, the linear phase EQ will actually keep the same phase relationship that you originally had, which is really important when you're trying to combine a kick with your bass, which is normally the case. You'll get a more transparent sounding EQ when you cut out these frequencies. So we're just going to place a point right around 30 hertz, and we are going to cut this information out. Let's just adjust this. And we're just going to compare between the 2 cuts. So here's parametric EQ2 and Fruity Convolver. You could just hear that it's slightly tighter, just a little more uniform with that kick. If you can't really hear that difference, don't worry, it's not a really huge difference. The big difference comes into play whenever you're really trying to maintain the same phase relationship between your kick and your bass. A lot of engineers will actually use this on the master track instead of a normal EQ, and that again is to maintain the transparency over the entire track as a whole. Now there is a caveat with this. It can cause something that's called pre-ringing. With that being said, always just use your ears. If the EQ doesn't sound cleaner to you, you might as well just go ahead and stick with the normal EQ2. But for those of you who could tell the difference, pay attention to the scenarios where you're trying to have the most transparent sounding cuts. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.